Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation here in Spain. Day 78 of the current crisis. That's right, day 78. And we'll go through some of the news that has caught my attention over the last couple of days. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to the people that supported the channel through a small donation. Thanks to the people that bought some merchandise. And a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now, let's have a look at some of the news that has caught my attention over the last couple of days. And the first thing is that the government is going to ask for an extension to the current state of alarm. And we can see here that the government and the ERC, the Republican Party in Catalonia, have reached an agreement for the extension of the state of alarm. Republicans will abstain in exchange for Catalonia participating in the management of the European Reconstruction Fund. The PNV, the Basque Nationalist Party, will vote in favour after agreeing that the powers belong to the communities in Phase 3. So there we go. The government is going to ask for an extension to the state of alarm, which is currently set to finish on the 7th of June. And if they get the extension, which is more than likely, it will carry on up until the 21st of June. But as we saw here, the autonomous communities here in Spain will get more power back, and that will be part of the new agreement for the continuance in the state of alarm, that the autonomous communities get control back and they will be managing the state of alarm from an autonomous point of view, and they will get back some of the powers that they lost in other phases of the state of alarm. Now, as I mentioned the other day, there have been a few outbreaks over the last couple of days here in Spain regarding the virus situation, and we can see here that parties are mostly to blame for the new outbreaks of the virus in Spain. A number of social gatherings have put the health authorities on alert, while in Lleida a celebration has actually caused the healthcare area to remain in phase 1 of the de-escalation plan. Parties and illegal gathering. Now remember that according to the phase stage that you are in here in Spain, you can meet up with either 10 or 15 people, and if you're going into phase 3 you can meet with bigger groups of people as well. But unfortunately, as we can see, a lot of people have been having parties with more than 10 or 15 people, and this has led to outbreaks in different areas. And as I said in the video the other day, there is a risk that some regions could stay in the phase if these outbreaks are not contained. So it's necessary that people don't go crazy and decide to have big parties at the moment. Now, for areas going into phase 2 on Monday, the good news is that beaches are allowed to open. However, Benidorm has decided that its beaches will not open until June 15th and will prohibit their use at noon. The Benidorm City Council will keep beaches closed next Monday despite the fact that the entire Valencian community passes the phase 2 of the de-escalation and the opening of beaches is already allowed. The city's mayor, Tony Perez, has stated that he will keep them closed out of responsibility until security can be guaranteed on the sand and bathing areas. Thus, it's stated that the intention of the council is to open them soon and that their use will also be subject to schedules. So a bit of a controversial decision there in Benidorm. The rest of the Valencian community moving towards reopening beaches, but Benidorm deciding to keep them closed because they don't feel that they are safe places for people to gather. And most likely the Benidorm City Council doesn't have measures in place as yet to control the amount of people that will frequent beaches when they do open. And anyone who's been to Benidorm in the summer will know just how crowded those beaches can get. So I imagine it's going to be a hard thing to control the amount of people on the beaches there in the summer months. But we'll see what happens over the next few weeks and of June the 15th when they are supposed to reopen again. Now remember that Malaga and Granada are going into phase 2 on Monday, but the whole of Andalusia hopes to jointly go to phase 3 and insists on requesting mobility between provinces. Remember that Andalusia was one of the areas here in Spain that had an uneven moving of phases, with some areas going into phase 1 and phase 2 before others. As I said before, Granada and Malaga, but the government is lobbying to get everybody into phase 3 at the same time, and for Andalusia, fundamental to have that movement between regions. So we'll see what happens there over the next couple of weeks as well. But hopefully the whole of Andalusia will be able to go into phase 3 together. Now, for those of you moving into phase 3 on Monday, you can see here that the bar areas of bars will open, and we can see here that in phase 3, slots disappear and there may be more meetings of people. Meetings may be up to 20 people, but no more than 80 people may participate in a congress. And in all municipalities included in this phase of the de-escalation, departures for walks by age groups are no longer regulated. So there we go, in phase 3, some more normality coming back to the bar and restaurant scene here in Spain. And the other important news is that you'll be allowed to get together with up to 20 people. So remember, phase 1, 10 people, phase 2, 15 people, and phase 3 up to 20. And as we saw here, you can have up to 150 people at a wedding. Now, if you're in Spain, you're no doubt sweltering with the hot conditions that we've had over the last couple of days. But the good news is that pools may open throughout Spain from Monday for individual sports use and by appointment. So some good news there for people that like to go swimming and have it as one of their main forms of exercise, considering that pools have been closed for the last few months. But remember, individual sports use and by appointment only. Now, something that I forgot to mention in the last video, which is important for people that are in phase 2 or going to phase 2 on Monday, and it is that Spain lifts lockdown rules on exercise and walks in phase 2 areas. From last Wednesday, or Wednesday the 27th, both children and adults in these territories will be able to go outside as often as they like with no restrictions on time or distance. And also, anyone living in a phase 2 area will be able to go hiking in the woods or take a day trip to the countryside as long as they remain within their province. So again, some good news for people in phase 2 as the controversial time slots and distant rules are being lifted, and you can now go hiking and take a day trip to the countryside. Another blow for the tourist industry here in Spain, as Denmark rules out Spain as a tourist destination. It has asked its citizens to only travel to Norway, Iceland or Germany, and will subject those visiting other countries to a 14-day quarantine. However, they said that this is not an express prohibition, but it implies that the supply of flights will also be extremely small. In addition, those that travel to places not recommended in the previous 3 must meet a 14-day quarantine on their return, which does not sound particularly attractive either. Spain is by far the preferred tourist destination for the Danes, with 17% of total trips, followed by Italy with 10% and Greece with 8%. So Danes being asked to only travel to Norway, Iceland or Germany, and we'll see how many other countries this year also recommend its citizens not to travel to countries like Spain. So it's going to be a long, tough summer for the tourist industry here, I feel. Now, Greece has jumped on the front foot and it's invited Australia and New Zealand to join a travel bubble. The Greek government has listed 29 countries from where it will accept visitors as of June 15th, as it looks to mitigate the financial damage from the coronavirus pandemic. And here are the 29 countries in question: Australia, Austria, New Zealand and the Czech Republic amongst them, and visitors arriving from those countries could be subject to sample virus testing, the ministry said. Now, is it just me, or is Greece being extremely proactive trying to get tourists to come there this year? And these tourist bubbles that Greece is proposing here, another interesting concept and a fairly new one. But then again, if you're in Australia, would you consider going to Greece on holiday this year? But Greece definitely on the front foot and very proactive, trying to get their tourism industry up and running as quickly as possible. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from the last video. Now the first one here from Phil: great to listen to your updates, I never miss them. We love Spain, but alas, a holiday to Spain from South Africa will have to wait until hopefully normality returns. Here in South Africa, our stages are opposite to the Spanish numbering. On Monday, we moved to stage 3 from stage 4. Happily, we'll be able to walk at any time between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Our infections tend to be mainly limited to high-density hotspot areas, which now get special actions to curb the spread. Yeah, Phil, thanks for the comment. Good to see that South Africa moving stages. I did hear that South Africa was one of the strictest lockdowns in the world, on par with Spain, or maybe even worse, some people said. And I think even alcohol was prohibited during the lockdown there in South Africa. And also good to see that infections are now limited to certain areas. Regarding the holiday to Spain, a lot of people in the same situation as you there, Phil, I'm sure, around the world. People that had trips planned for Spain this summer, most likely postponed, and as you said, waiting for normality to return, whenever that is. One here from Mark: Hola all, I've just booked return flights for £75 return in early September. At that money, I'll take a punt on everything being somewhere back to normal by then. My biggest fear is that many of the places we have enjoyed over the years will no longer be there. On your point about visas, I can't imagine that after Brexit kicks in, we will have many differences to what we have now. We'll probably just get a stamp in the passport like the old days. Yeah, Mark, good to see you're willing to take the punt, and for £75 return, you've obviously got yourself a good deal there. Don't know where it is that you're going to. I presume to the Costa del Sol or maybe the Canary Islands. And you're right, most likely you'll just get a stamp in your passport passport like the olden days, and it's what I have to do every time I come to this country. Even though I'm a resident here, I still have to get the old stamp in the passport because I'm not part of the European Union, so no dramas there. One here from Peter: driving on your own and wearing a mask. Can anybody who does this explain what the purpose of this is? Yeah, good question, Peter. I have seen a lot of people driving around with masks on. I don't know the reason for it. I think that if you have more than one person in the car and they're not from the same family as you, you have to wear a mask by law. But I have seen a few people driving around alone with masks on, and I don't really understand it. Somebody said the reason that they do it is because they don't like to have to take the mask off and then put it back on again every time they hop into the car, especially if they're going to a lot of different places. And apparently that's because of a health reason, that you don't want to get your hands touching the mask too often. But a solution to that could be wash your hands, take your mask off and then put it back on. Or maybe people have just got used to wearing a mask. What's your situation? Are you wearing a mask in a car? Let us know. One here from Formers: where can you get a pint for €1.50? Well, Formers, I'm sure there's lots of places in Spain where you can get a pint for €1.50. Maybe it's not called a pint. I know that here in Madrid there's a place called Cien Montaditos where they sell you a jarra, which is like a jug of beer for €1.50, and it's about half a litre, so that's fairly good value. I've also seen in Benidorm that you can get a pint for that price. A lot of people said for that price that the beer is watered down, but I'm sure there's lots of places around Spain where you can get a pint or half a litre of beer, a jarra, as I said, for €1.50 or a little bit more. One here from Belinda: hi Stuart, thanks for all the info. Don't worry about Madrid staying in phase 1 next week because the government said that all provinces will remain in each phase for a minimum of 2 weeks. Still, I think some regions in Spain with a few cases could move faster and get their economies going. Yeah, Belinda, thanks for that. Madrid is stuck in phase 1 for a minimum of 2 weeks. It could be longer. It depends on the evolution of the health situation here, and that's also the case for other places around Spain. And I do agree that places in Spain with lower cases should have been able to move through the phase system quicker and open their economies up. But again, remember that everything was centralized and the power was taken away from the autonomous communities, so it didn't really matter which area you were in as everything was controlled from Madrid. One here from Ria: hiya, question: are the death statistics that Spain announces based on died of or died with? Thanks for doing what you do. Stay safe, love and peace always. Yeah, Ria, not really sure what you mean with died with. I know that normally in English we use the words die of or die from, and there is a bit of a semantic difference between the two. I've never really heard died with used in this context. Normally you would say that he died with his mother by his side, for example. You can use it like that, but I think you need to say died of or died from. But again, if there's any language experts out there, let us know which one to use. One here from Steve: lost my teaching job in Spain back in March. Now just lost my summer school teaching job in the UK thanks to the quarantine BS. Will be glad to see the back of 2020. My 50th year on this increasingly maddening, slowly revolving mud ball. I tell my old man he got the best times, 1950 to 2010, because the future looks bad. I feel sorry for the kids today. I remember the 90s, a good decade. The future is bleak for Western Europe. I lived in Poland for 13 years. My marriage finished, then I left. Tired of the winters there, but I'm thinking of returning. Still a semblance of normality and sensibility in Poland. Western Europe is disappearing up its own arse as the globalist elites and their media and politician puppets squeeze the life out of it. Yeah, Steve, thanks for the comment. Not really sure on the situation in Poland. I did see that a couple of people from Poland replied to you. One person was a bit skeptical. Another person said that Poland is a great place to be at the moment and the government is doing a good job. Not 100% sure on that. I'm around the same age as you, and you could argue that that generation before us had it a little bit better, especially in countries like Australia. They missed the Second World War and they had lots of years of growth. They had jobs that they could be in for a long period of time. But I'm sure that lots of people in that age bracket are going to comment on your point. And you're right, the future may seem a bit bleak for future generations, especially here in Western Europe. But again, leave a comment if you disagree. One here from Tim: cheers, Stuart. I just want to swim now. It's getting warm. I love the cool water in summer. Yeah, thanks, Tim, for the comment. If you're in Spain and in phase 2, you can swim on Monday, unless, of course, you are in Benidorm, as the beaches there are not going to open until the 15th. So hopefully that's not your case and that you are in another part of Spain where you can enjoy a beach and go for a swim if you are in phase 2, or if you want to go for a swim in a pool, you can do so on Monday as well, as long as you book an appointment. One here from Laura: 1,900 euros a month equates to just under 11 euros an hour. Not exactly a stellar wage for policing people on the beach in a pandemic. Yeah, Laura, I agree. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but in that part of the world, it is. 1,900 euros in a place like Malaga for a lot of people is a very good salary. And considering a lot of people would have just gone to the beach all day anyway, to be able to get paid for it, I imagine is like winning the lottery for some in that part of the world. And here in Spain, realistically, a lot of people don't make more than 1,000, or they make maybe a little bit more than 1,000. So almost double that is going to be a good salary for a lot of people. And finally, one here from Guru Meister, who in the UK wants to go to Spain when we have had the best weather ever in history in the last 2 months, with only 1 day of any rain. Great Britain has the best variety of scenery in Europe and don't need aircon at night. Plenty of wonderful places to visit without having to wear a mask. I visited the Manifold Valley, Wetton Mill, Derbyshire, an absolutely awesome ice cream van and cafe open. So there you go. Why do you need to come to Spain and suffer in the sweltering heat when you can stay in the pleasantly mild United Kingdom and sleep well at night without any stress and visit one of those many wonderful places that you have there? On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.